Welcome to the finale of Season 11 of The Lord of the Rings Online. I have finished up here in Eregion, and behind me is the Doors of Durin leading into Moria, which will be the most epic season of this Lord of the Rings Online playthrough to date. I hope you're really excited about that, but we do need to clean up a few things here in Eregion, mainly the deeds. In the season finale episodes, I like to go over things in a systematic fashion. I like to go over virtues, class points, any new items I may be equipping, new titles, deeds, reputation factions if there are any. I like to get a new mount as well, and any other cleanup things that we need to do. The first thing you will notice is that I have a new cosmetic outfit. I wanted a more armored looking outfit heading into the Moria season, and I'm not the best with these design things. If you ever want to help me out by suggesting some outfits and things of that, I am always open to suggestions. I do like the Wigfeld cloak though, I think that looks really cool. And this is not just a cosmetic one, it's actually the Wigfeld cloak that I managed to get from a drop, I think, when I did the Rift. Anyways, I think this looks pretty cool, and I'm pretty excited about it. So let's get to the meat of the episode and talk about a few things. There's really not much to update as far as my virtues. I'm keeping the same offensive line traits here, so I can kill enemies fast in Moria. Nothing to change with the race traits, and I have no class points to spend, so nothing to change there. But the really exciting thing is that we finally were able to unlock legendary items in the last few episodes, and I spent some time maxing out a level 60 first age weapon for me to take with me into Moria. So right now, up until now, I have been using this spear here, and let's check out what I did with my legendary item. So, look at that bad boy. It is all maxed out. Let me pull up the legendary item panel and we can talk about it in a little bit more detail. I named my item RenaissanceGaming.net to kind of promote my series a little bit if anybody ever inspects me in game. And as a reminder, you can go to RenaissanceGaming.net/lotro.html, scroll down to the completionist checklist, and you can see all the quests and deeds that I have done in the game, which ones I'm going to have to come back to. And all that information is compiled from the LOTRO wiki, so I'm making sure I hit everything, and this is truly a 100% playthrough. Anyways, let's talk about legendary items. So when you first get your legendary item, like I showed in previous episodes, you have to get it identified at a Forge Master, and then you can level it up. I had a bunch of runes in my vault, which I used to level up my item all the way to max, which is perfect. Now normally, you can only level up to 60, not 70, but there's an item that you can use called a Scroll of Delving. If you use that item, you will unlock an additional 10 levels, which of course is what I did here. The next thing you want to do with your legendary weapon is give it some of these stars. These will upgrade the base damage bonus, the DPS of your item, and also the base stats of it. In the case of the spear, it will be the bleed. So the way you get these stars is you have to use starlit crystals on your items, and if you use 3 of them, you get all 3 stars, increasing the base DPS damage. So next up, you get some of the legacies. You can choose the legacies that go on your item as you level them up. In my case, I chose light damage, gambit life tap damage, spear gambit damage. I also put one there for just base agility, which is not the best, ambush critical damage, and surety of death damage over time. I really like that one because I use this item a lot when dealing with multiple enemies. And then critical strike, critical damage. Those are the ones I went with. Again, this is not a perfect weapon for me. If you guys have any suggestions on what things I should focus on as a warden, I would love to hear it for my next legendary item. So the way that this works is that you get points to spend. As you can see, I've spent 826 and I only have 4 points to spend, and you can distribute them among the legacies and the DPS. The thing you absolutely must do is max out the DPS. So that's the first thing I do, and then I max out the legacies. Now it can be very expensive to level up the legacies, so what you need to do is you need to purchase or find or barter for things called Scrolls of Empowerment. You can use Scrolls of Empowerment to increase the rank of your legacies. As you can see, this is a tier 6 legacy, So I used plenty of scrolls of empowerment to get it all the way to tier 6. The higher the tier, the less amount of points you have to spend to level up that legacy. So that's one thing that is pretty important to do as well. The other item that you want to use on your legendary weapon is something called a Crystal of Remembrance. Normally a legendary weapon only has room for 6 legacies, but you can see that mine has a total of 7. If you use a Crystal of Remembrance, you will open up a 7th legacy, and that's how I was able to do that. So that's everything here about these legendary weapons, and you can see that most of these are all ranked up to max. I could have maxed out the agility or the ambush critical damage, but whatever. The next thing is up here. You will see some slots that you can equip things. You have a slot for a setting, you have a slot for a gem, and you have a slot for a rune. And as you can see, I have plenty of settings here from tier 1 all the way to tier 9. You can go to a Relic Master and do all sorts of things to empower these lower tier ones into higher tier ones. The max tier right now I believe is tier 10. I did not have enough relics to get tier 10 settings just yet, but that's not too much of a problem. The difference between the tier 9 and tier 10 is not too great. So you can see right here my setting that I chose was a written mark setting of might, giving me 27 might and all this physical mastery, so that's pretty good. For the gem, I chose a red agate gem of dexterity, 27 agility, and almost 1200 critical rating. Finally, for the rune, I chose a rune of defense, increased incoming healing rating for when I'm using my healing gambits, and also almost 600 block rating, which is awesome. So once I level up more stuff and I get more settings, I'll eventually upgrade these to the tier 10 equivalents. You'll notice an empty slot here, and you need to craft your own in order to put it here, and you need to have a certain rank within the crafting guild. So I will show you a couple of things that I also did. I ranked up a lot of my woodworker and forester tiers here. I'm all the way up to Anorian. The reason I did that is so I can start making some of the max tier woodworking guild reputation items, so I can continue working on my reputation. But so far I'm pretty low, so I can't make this just yet. But it's not that big of a deal. I think the best thing I can put on here is like 10 stat points towards something for now. So once I'm able to do that, once I continue to increase my rank with the guild, I'll be able to do that. So let me actually show you my rank with them. So with the Woodworker Guild, I'm still an apprentice, and hopefully I will continue to level that up. So that's a lot of rambling about legendary weapons, but let me show you as I make the change. Look at this. So the DPS on the first stage is 71.2 DPS, whereas the weapon that I'm using now and have been using is 55.5. So that's going to make a huge difference, and you'll begin to see that as I show some of the Slayer deeds here later on in this episode. You'll notice a giant jump in the damage. So let me equip this, and there we go. We are forever done with this crappy item. From now on, we will only be using legendary items. The other thing is that I can equip a secondary legendary item, and that will be a javelin. I don't have a legendary javelin just yet. I need to complete a few more quests just inside of here in order to be able to fully unlock those. So that's going to be something for the next season in Moria. I'll hopefully be able to get a first stage javelin to use as well. But that's enough for now. Let me actually show you my new title. Again, I'd like to get a new title pertaining to the season that I just finished. So here in Eregion, I helped out the Elves of Mirabel. So my new title is going to be Kip and Proudfeet, Protector of Mirabel. So let's finally talk about the deeds, the meat of the episode here. So there are many deeds. There are the exploration deeds, including Dens of the Beast. Protector of Eregion is a meta deed for completing a ton of other deeds in Eregion. Ring Lore, for finding a bunch of the ring lore. The Ring Goes South is another exploration deed. That's another exploration deed. The Silent and Restless chain here is for completing quests. Then you got the Craban-slayer, the Dunlending-slayer, Half-orc Slayer. We got the Lizard and Crawler Slayer. We got the Wolf and Warg-slayer. Uruk-captains for killing 7 captains here within Eregion. And then there is this Ridge Racer deed, which is a bit of a secret deed, and you'll see what I mean once I show you in just a few minutes. So let's actually go ahead and start by showing you some of the deeds. The first exploration deed is Dens of the Beasts, and the objective is to discover the layers of Eregion's wildlife. The first landmark is Torek Bregnell. You have discovered the den of boars known as Torek Bregnell. The next landmark is Torek Ladnil. You have discovered the den of boars known as Torek Ladnil. Next, there is Torek Bornagal. You have discovered the badger moot known as Torek Bornagal. The next landmark is the Burnt Tor. Here it was that the Company of the Ring fended off a pack of shadow wargs sent by Sauron to hunt down the One Ring. The wargs were at last driven off when Gandalf the Grey caused a powerful fire to blaze forth, a fire which ruined the wooded hilltop. Next is Sod Umraval. You have discovered the Roost of Craban, known as Sod Umraval. Next is Torek Androg. You have discovered the den of wolves and wargs known as Torek Androg. Finally, there is Ulundin. You have discovered the nest of lizards known as Ulundin. The next exploration deed is called the Ring Goes South, in which we are tasked with finding the important locations along the path of the Company of the Ring through Eregion. The first landmark is again the Burnt Tor. Here it was that the Company of the Ring fended off a pack of shadow wargs sent by Sauron to hunt down the One Ring. The wargs were last driven off when Gandalf the Grey caused a powerful fire to blaze forth, a fire which ruined the wooden hilltop. Next is the Caradros campfire. It was here that the Company of the Ring set camp in the Redhorn Gate. Gandalf was forced to show forth his power to light the fire, revealing himself to all who had the ability to recognize it, putting the company in jeopardy. Next is the Ciranon Gate. This gateway leads up to Ciranon to the Hullen Gate. Next is the High Holen campsite. This campsite marks a place where the Company of the Ring stayed during their journey through Holen. A careless hobbit left his marks as well. Next is the Tal Caradros campfire. The Company of the Ring rested here before continuing onto the Redhorn Gate. Sam Gamgee clearly took the opportunity to provide a fine meal for the company. The next exploration deed is the Ruins of Eregion to find the ancient ruins along the landmark. First place is Gwingris. The sprawling ruins of Gwingris were once part of the elf realm of Eregion, until Eregion was razed by Sauron. Now Gwingris acts as the staging camp for Rivendell's forays against the White Hand. Next is Eregion. The current encampment of Eregion was once a waypost central to the cities of Eregion in ages past. Next is Mirabel. The forges at Mirabel were home to the smiths of the Great Rings, who were deceived by Sauron in ages past. Mirabel was established to prevent anyone from recovering the lost ring lore of Eregion, if it remained still. Next is Dunan. Dane Ironfoot, king of the Lonely Mountain and the Iron Hills, has sent an expedition to retake Moria, but the ways of the Holland Gate are treacherous. Dwarves and elves alike have established a camp of Dunan to claim those paths once more. Next is Pembar. Pembar was once a stronghold of the Noldor of Eregion. Now it lies in ruin, overrun by Saruman's half-orcs. Finally, there is Barad Morlas. At the height of Eregion, Barad Morlas was a major city and stronghold of the Noldor, but it fell into shadow when Sauron destroyed Eregion. The next deed is actually a bit of a secret deed, as I would like to call it. It's called Ridge Racer, and if you come to around these coordinates over here, you will see this mountain, and you have to race along the ridges here. Very precarious path, and if you manage to successfully do so, you get the deed. This jump here is probably the hardest, but if you make it to this little ledge, you can kind of follow the angle here and stay on the ridge and just make your way across. We're headed to that tower all the way off in the distance. And from here, it's pretty safe for the most part. There's only a few more jumps that I have to get through. Like this one right here. Alright, we're good. And then as soon as I get to this plane, we are set. There we go. And then as soon as you reach this little tower, the deed unlocks. Pretty interesting one, and pretty easy one to miss if you don't know about it. Plus you can also enjoy the view from up here. It's pretty nice. So next up we have a deed called the Ring Lore of Eregion. You can pick up some ring lore on the floor and from enemies. Here in Pembar, at around this location, you will find the crumbling pages of ring lore. Next up, if you head over here to Barad Morlas, you will find the fragile pages of ring lore, and they should be lootable around right here. Next, over here in Mirabel, you should be able to find the brittle pages of ring lore. And they will be in this rubble right here. They kind of disappear after you interact with them. That's why they're not showing up on this recording, because I had already picked up some of them. But I did leave one of them for me to pick up on screen. So here in Gwingris, all the way at the back left corner, you will find the delicate pages of ring lore. Once you've picked up these four, there's actually two more that you actually get from drops. So the worn pages of ring lore and the moldering pages of ring lore you get from enemies, Dunlendings or half-orcs. So that's that deed right there. Next up, we do have the Slayer deeds, beginning with the Craban-slayer. You can do it over here towards the northern part of the map. You could also do the... I believe it's the library, or maybe the school. I want to say library. If you do the library, there's some Craban over there that you can run in and out of that instance and kill them several times, but I think this is easier. There's a good concentration of Craban over here, north of the road of Eregion. Next up, we got the Dunlending-slayer. There's plenty of places that you can do this at, but I like this little camp right here because they're kind of bunched up a little bit closer together. For somebody who has AoEs, this tends to work very well in my opinion. Next up, there is the Half-orc Slayer. You can do this in Pembar, although I don't think there's too many half-orcs there. I certainly prefer Barad Morlas, where I am right here. I think this is definitely the best spot for it. Next up, there is the Lizard and Crawler Slayer, and I prefer to do it at this cave over here at the Walls of Moria. If you remember, some of the expedition quests are over here, so there's a good concentration of them here. So this is the Brackwater Cave near the Walls of Moria. There's a pretty good route you can follow and just kill a ton of these. Now remember, worms as in the crawlers, they also count for this deed. So finally, there is the Warg and Wolf-slayer deed, and the Burnt Tor is the best place to do this. There's no wolves here, but there are plenty of wargs to go around, so this is my recommended spot for this Slayer deed. The next deed is called Uruk-captains of Eregion, in which you have to find and defeat 6 Uruk leaders in Eregion. Some of these are tied to quests, and you may have seen me do them throughout the previous episodes in this season, but here I am recycling that footage so you can have it nice and concise here. The first Uruk is Logon. The Uruk Logon was sent to Glad Erag with a company of witch trolls to bring the forest beneath the white hand of Saruman. The next Uruk is Faldush. Faldush is a warlord of a strange and powerful breed of orc who serves Saruman the White, the Uruk-kai. The next enemy is Shatalgtar. Shatalgtar, a warlord of the Uruk-kai, once led the forces of the White Hand at Barad Morlas. Next is Pizumu the Spymaster. The defeat of Pizumu the Spymaster will greatly hinder Saruman's efforts in Eregion. Next is Gamzurm, Lord of Porth-Cadlis. Gamzurm, the Uruk, is the driving force behind the Dunlendings who occupy the encampment at Porth-Cadlis. It is the fear of this beast that keeps them from returning to their homes. Next is Akashpug, chief of Tar-Stazg. The half-orcs at Tar-Stazg will fall into disarray without the leadership of Akashpug. Finally, there is Rakuga the Tracker. Rakuga was the leader of the scouts of Saruman seeking after the One Ring in Eregion. His death will be a mighty blow to the White Hand. Now there is one deed here in Eregion that I was not able to do and I'm going to have to come back to at a later time. That deed is called Exploration from Top to Bottom, and there are some hidden ruins here in Eregion which I have not shown you yet because you need to actually be in Volume 3 to be able to go in there. There's an exploration deed associated with those ruins and I'll eventually come back and do that. You may remember, I think one of the episodes there was this Roman aqueduct looking structure and I tried to go inside of it and it said I did not have the corresponding quest. That's basically where that deed is. I will have to come back to it. Next up, I like to talk about the reputations. The reputation factions in an area. In Eregion, there are none. There are certain things that you can do around here that will increase your reputation with the Elves of Rivendell, but I'm already kindred with them. There's no specific faction here in Eregion. So finally, you may have noticed this here in the corner. I wanted to show you guys something. I got some fan mail. This one is nothing. The only reason I made this is so this would pop up for me. Anyways. One of our frequent watchers of the series, his name is Tum, he sent me this very nice mail. So let me actually read it out for you guys. Dear Mr. Kippen, thank you for keeping us at the Cook's Guild entertained with your tales of adventure. Some of the younger members have been talking seriously about following in your footsteps by organizing a group walk from the guild house to Needlehole. All pretty exciting, I can tell you. We have decided to award you the title of Breakfast Connoisseur. To qualify, you must eat the enclosed snacks. It will take about 30 minutes to complete this task, but we recommend eating them all in one sitting because experience has shown that people tend to lose count and fail the test otherwise. Regards, Tum and Thord. A hidden deed giving a title, good luck, don't lose count. So that's very cool, and it kind of introduces the fact that there are hidden deeds here in the Lord of the Rings Online game. One of them, the Breakfast Connoisseur, you can unlock by eating all of these items here. You don't have a certain time limit that you have to eat them in, and you can eat them in multiple sittings, but like our friend Tum has recommended, you won't lose count if you eat them all together. So I'll go ahead and do that. Thank you, Tum. I really appreciate it. That is very kind of you. I really enjoyed the mail. Finally, the last thing before I head into Moria is I like to go into a new season with a new mount. Now, you may remember from the Lord of the Rings movies that the mines are no place for a pony, even one's brave as Bill. So we cannot use ponies in the Mines of Moria. We can, however, use goats. And I have a few. I have some from the Thorin's Hall reputation, but I have this one from the treasure hunting event, the treasure laden goat, which I think is really cool. So I think I'm going to be using him. And look how cool he is. And actually, if you ride around with him, you'll kind of see some coins flying out occasionally at you. So it's really cool, and that's the mount that I'm going to be using. So that's actually going to do it for the season finale here. I will be heading into Moria. But before I do so, I'm going to take Mr. Tum up on his offer, and I am going to eat all of these items to unlock the Breakfast Connoisseur title and hidden deed. This is going to take forever, so I'm going to do some editing while I do this, and I will see you guys when it's done, and then we'll head into Moria. You can skip around in the video if you don't want to watch this part. I wouldn't blame you. And he personally cooked all of these, it looks like. Time for third breakfast here. My hobbit is just stuffing his face. Oh my god, so much food. Can't handle it anymore. My hobbit is passing out from all the eating. It's just too much food. By the way, since I'm doing this, I figured it would actually be important to show you what you need to eat to complete the deed. So you need to eat 9 complete hobbit breakfasts. You need to eat 9 delicious crispy bacons, 9 hobbiton omelets, and 9 eggs and onions. If you eat all of those, that's how you unlock that hidden title and hidden deed. And I'm making some progress here. I'm getting there. Yum. My god, that's a lot of food. I don't know if I'm gonna make it. Please, no more. Can't do it. This hobbit's gonna be dead before he can get into Moria if he keeps eating. Alright, here we go, guys. Last one. Finishing out with a Hobbiton omelet. And there we go. Completed breakfast expert. Title awarded. Kip and Proud Feet breakfast connoisseur. Sweet. And I completed the deed. Breakfast expert. Nice. Alright, so thank you again, Tom, for that tidbit there. It's time. Shall we go in? I think we shall. Let's walk into the Mines of Moria. Thank you for another great season. The next one will be the best one yet. I'll see you there.
We now have but one choice. We must face the long dark of Moria. Be on your guard. There are older and fouler things than orcs in the deep places of the world.